Remember that?
Okay. Interestingly, this morning during morning devotion, the topic was on unity, and artistic distance was mentioned quite a number of times. So it's interesting that we talk about unity this morning. But first, let us examine or understand how this unity came about in the first place. So in previous presentation, I mentioned that it is very important to understand that there must have been an origin in terms of the corruption of our heart. Okay. In Christianity, it's called the fall of man. So we have to understand that everything has an origin. You know, even science is beginning to recognize that there's no such thing as you know, infinite cycle after cycle. Everything has a beginning and an end, you know. So the beginning is very important to understand how we actually, how did we come about, our origin. So I begin to recognize the importance of the understanding of origin, division, union, more and more now. Obviously, the principle of origin, division, union, we have to study more. But the relationship of bringing unity after division is based on subject-object. So I encourage those who are listening to this content to study more on the principle of creation. The founder of our movement, the Reverend Myung Moon, has this to say, that if you understand the relationship between subject and object, you understand all the principles that that God created this world with. So it's very important to understand the fundamental principles. But this morning, I will dwell on the understanding about how this unity actually, how did it come about, you know? So I will start to share my screen. Okay, everybody can see, right? The screen. So it is only in the Bible that the origin of good and evil actually is described in such I would say detailed manner that compared to all other religious texts. So God created this world, and he created the angelic world first, and then he created the physical, visible world that we have here. But then the last of God's creation is Adam and Eve. And God created Adam and Eve last in the position as children. Whereas Lucifer, who is the archangel, were created in the position of servants. Now, I don't have the time to go into details about this. Those who are interested to understand about the fall, it's important that you understand, come back and listen to the whole chapter on the fall of man. We all know that Adam and Eve were created in the position of children, and the angels and archangels were created in the position of servants. So even though they were created from the very beginning, and they are supposed to be in a position to serve Adam and Eve. Lucifer particularly, Archangel Lucifer was supposed to be a teacher to Adam and Eve. So obviously, because Adam and Eve were in a position of children, God loves them. The quality of love that God has for Adam and Eve is very different from the love that God has for Lucifer and all angels, okay, because they were in the position of servants. So there is this hierarchy of love that was already established from the very time that God created Adam and Eve. Okay, and obviously there is a reason why God created his children compared to God created the archangels and angels in the position of servants. So because Adam and Eve were put in a position as children, they were given more responsibility and greater blessing as well. Okay. Now, I can't go into details, but not only there is this hierarchy of love, but there is a hierarchy of values. And we know very well that in previous presentation, we also mentioned that Eve knew God's commandment not to eat of the fruit. The day they eat of it, they shall die. And later on, confronted by Lucifer, Archangel Lucifer, she said, not only must you not eat of it, you mustn't touch it. Okay? So she knew the seriousness of God's commandment not to eat of the fruit. Okay? But Archangel was able to deceive Eve. He said that you will become like God, actually, if you eat of the fruit. So Lucifer obviously knew that Adam and Eve were created in the image of God, and Adam and Eve wanted to become like God, you know? So there's nothing wrong being wanting to be like God. So because he was put in a position where he was loved less compared to God's love for Adam and Eve, he felt this lack of love, but he took care of Adam and Eve, supplemented that love because Adam and Eve were the most beautiful of God's creation, especially Eve. Okay. Now, what happened was Lucifer began to share. This is how our corrupted heart came about, how the fall took place, and this is very, very important understanding of how this artistic distance came about. So if we don't understand how artistic distance actually came about between Adam and Eve and God, how can we then hope to bring about unity then? Because we don't even know how this unity came about. So I don't know whether you remember, I mentioned that we have a corrupted heart, we have a broken conscience. The reason is because the archangel started to explain or rather share his situation, that he was created from the beginning. He was the center of God's love. So when God created Adam and Eve, he felt this lack of love. So he started instilling this values of justice and fairness, okay, on the left. Whereas if Adam and Eve have united in heart with God, then they would have inherited the values of absolute faith, absolute love, and absolute obedience. So we have these two sets of values, okay? So not only there is a hierarchy of love that caused about this artistic distance, okay? But this artistic distance need not have existed from the beginning, even though there is a hierarchy of love. Adam and Eve had to choose between the values of justice, fairness, and absolute faith, love, and obedience to God. which means that she has to choose whether to unite in heart with God or unite in heart with the archangel. This is a very important understanding. And it all entails whether you unite in heart with God or you unite in heart with archangel, which means that whether Eve will sympathize archangel situation because of his sharing about this being of him being loved less compared to God's love for Adam and Eve. So she has to make a choice whether to unite with God or to unite with the archangel. So we have to understand that this is a choice that Adam and Eve were put under, especially Eve. So when the archangel say, you become like God, knowing good and evil, she was put in a situation where she was confronted with this situation where God's commandment, not only not to eat of it, but not to touch it. And then on the other hand, the archangel say, you become like God. And feeling sympathy for the archangel, she is put in a situation whether to unite in heart with God or to unite in heart with the archangel. So who you unite with becomes very central in determining good and evil, in determining whether God's dominion is established, whether Adam and Eve can enter the realm of God's heart or enter the realm of Satan's heart. This is a very important understanding. So we know from the Bible that Eve chose to unite with the archangel, and so she had a sexual relationship with the archangel and fell, which is against God's commandment given to her. And from that, man inherited original sin. Original sin came about, and this is then transmitted from generation to generation. So this is how disunity came about. Okay? So in restoration of heart, who you unite with becomes very, very important. Okay? So today I will have to spend a little bit more time to explain this very important restoration of heart, of how we can subjugate Satan by uniting with the right person, okay? The right values, okay? And to focus on the right kind of love, true love, rather than fallen love, okay? So we have to understand that because Eve united in spirit and in spiritual body with the archangel, she inherited, okay, inherited everything from the archangel. So you have to understand that love determines ownership, okay, in italic. So therefore, once Eve fell, the archangel could rightly claim ownership over her and over all her descendants, fallen human beings. So this is how the fallen lineage came about. Eve lost ownership because Satan claimed ownership through this love relationship she had with the archangel, and then subsequently she had this love relationship with Adam. And that's how original sin then is passed down from generation to generation. Fast forward now. Now Eve gave birth Okay. Adam knew Eve, his wife, and they conceived, and then they gave birth to Cain. Okay? And then they gave birth to a second son, Abel, and both were asked to make an offering. But the second-born's offering was received by God, but the firstborn's offering, Cain, was rejected. Now it's interesting that Cain is put in a position as like the archangel created from the very beginning, the eldest son. Abel is put in a position of Adam and Eve, who were created, much later. So God accepted the offering of Abel, the second-born, but rejected the offering of Cain. So if you are put in the Cain position, how do you feel? You must feel very, very disappointed, even to a point of being angry with God because God accepted his younger brother's offering. Okay? But what happens after the rejection of the offering is very important. God spent time with Cain. Yeah? God spent time with Cain, and God even knew that there will be a situation where Cain will feel very angry towards him. So what was God trying to do is God is trying to appease Cain and guide Cain so that he will not be driven by anger. Okay? And we know very well that this is the time of which God was hoping that Cain would not resort to violence. So the Lord said to Cain, in italic again, why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? He has such a long face. Okay? We all know when we are angry, right? When someone is angry, we know very well. When we are angry, we probably want to be more angrier than what our face shows. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is couching at the door. Sin lies at the door. Sin is waiting to get a hold of you. And his desire is for you, but you should rule over it. That means God is trying to guide Cain so that he can overcome his anger, overcome his sin, overcome the archangel lack of love. If he can overcome that, then that would be a different situation altogether. Now, going back to Eve, one of the most important understanding here is that Eve developed a artistic distance from God because she sympathized with the archangel. But she could easily have gone to God and asked God, very important, ask God whether what the archangel said to her is true. If she had gone to God and asked God whether it is true that I will become like God if I take of the fruit, she would not have fallen. And even after she fell with the archangel, she could have gone to Adam and confessed. But she didn't do all that. Okay? She didn't talk to Adam. She seduced Adam, and Adam and Eve fell. So in the same way, Cain could have gone to God and said, why is it that you accepted my younger brother's offering? It's not acceptable. If he had gone to God, because God made a point to be with him, if Cain had gone to God and said that, I just cannot understand why you accept my younger brother's offering. My offering was just as good. If he had done that, he would not have murdered his brother. So it's very important, very important. Or he could have gone to also Abel. What is it that how did you offer your offering that became acceptable to God? Maybe you can teach me. Maybe you can help me to offer this offering to God, and then God can accept. Don't you think that would have avoided? Cain would not have killed Abel altogether. Yeah. So if we understand how this unity actually came about and how Satan in many ways were created by Adam and Eve, the authority and power of Satan comes from Adam and Eve, not comes from God. We could, see, Eve could have avoided the fall, could have gone to God, could have gone to Adam. Cain could have gone to God, or Cain could have gone to Abel. And then whatever disunity, we can bring about unity. Correct? So in this sense, we now understand how disunity come about and how that disunity could have been avoided. So in the same way, Cain need not kill Abel. Abel could have gone to Cain also and said, I don't know why God accepted my offering, but let's work together and see whether we can make this offering together. And then your offering that was rejected, maybe God can accept this offering. Don't you think that will work? So you can see here how we can bring about unity in spite of the fact that there was a fall. Okay. Next, we come to the next family, Noah. Noah worked all his life, 120 years. It seems that when he was born, he was already working to build the ark. Well, that's figuratively speaking. He worked so hard, he saved the lives of his whole family. Nobody believed in him. He was a crazy man. His wife must have been so angry with him because he didn't bother taking care of the family. And everybody was saying that he was a crazy man. Yeah? Okay? So after saving the whole family from this great flood, what happened? From what you understand, Noah became drunk. Okay? From what we understand, God was the one who arranged for him to become drunk. And then Ham, the second son, saw the father not only drunk, but naked. This was after the flood, after Noah saved the whole family. Okay? Altogether, 7 family members, wife and, 6, 3 sons and 3 daughters-in-law. Altogether, 8 members were saved. So Ham felt ashamed of the father's nakedness. You may think that, and then he called his 2 other brothers and then covered the naked father. You would say that that is an act of kindness, but it was not an act of kindness, because why call the brother, the 2 other brothers, if he really is concerned of his father? We say that basically Ham judged his father. If Ham had been one heart with Noah, he would have no reason to feel ashamed at seeing his father's nakedness. Wouldn't it have been wonderful if Ham had laid down to sleep naked beside his father? But because of this, everything that Noah did amounted to nothing. So This was the last days at that time. But because of Ham's mistake, his descendants became slaves to the descendants of his brothers. That was the curse that was put onto him. So here, what is the cause of this disunity? This is a disunity of Noah's wife and Noah. Noah focused on God's providence, God's will, but his wife focused on taking care of his children. But he never felt that basically, that her husband was the one who saved their family. She never repented for all the years that she had resentment towards Noah. And she passed on this resentment towards Noah because Noah never spent time with her or with her family, with the family, never. So this resentment was passed on to Ham. That's why Ham judged his father, even though the father was the savior of the family. So in the same way, this is a repeat of the fall. You see, Eve was put in a situation where she felt that what the archangel felt. It's not fair that God, you don't love the archangel as much as you love us. So in this way, Eve must have judged God. In the same way as Ham judged his father. So you understand this unity that Eve has to establish with God and with Adam is so critical, so critical. So not only there's a hierarchy of love, hierarchy of values, but also you have to choose between two persons, and these two persons seem to who to believe, who to unite in heart with. And the person that you need to unite in heart with has some issue. You feel conflicted. Noah was naked. Ham has to decide whether to, place the fact that Noah saved his whole family and the mistake that he made of being naked, drunk. But he couldn't overcome the mistake of his father. And he judged his father by asking his two brothers to cover his naked father. So can you understand? So in the same way, you'll find that there is this bringing of unity. If we understand how this unity came about, we can understand why is it that so much effort is made to bring about unity. And unity is not a simple unity here, okay? Now, Ham disunited with his father Noah because Noah made a mistake, obviously. He was drunk and he was naked, but he couldn't forgive his father. This resentment that the mother had towards Noah was passed on to Ham. She couldn't forgive Noah at all. So he judged Noah and condemned Noah by covering his naked father. So this had to be restored, and this was Abraham and Isaac. And if you look at this account, then he said, this is Isaac saying to his father Abraham, and Isaac being the only son from Sarah. Then he said, look, the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for a burnt offering? So they wanted to make this offering to God. And then Abraham said, my son, God will provide for himself the lamb for a burnt offering. So don't worry. So later on, Isaac came to realize that the offering is none other than himself. Which means that Abraham was asked to offer his only son, Isaac, by killing him as an offering. But put yourself in Isaac's position. How can your loving father be so merciless? How can he be so merciless? How can you murder your only son? And Abraham has to go through the same struggle. Abraham was told that his descendants will number like the stars, but God told him that you have to offer your son. So Abraham must be very conflicted. God, you told me that my descendants would number like the stars, but now you ask me to offer my only son. You are such a cruel God. But Abraham united in heart with God. Isaac united completely with Abraham. He could have ran away. But Isaac knew that this offering was so important for his father. So he was willing to offer his life. Even though his father was problematic, trying to kill me. He's a murderer. Yet Isaac overlooked that completely and united in heart with Abraham. And this restored the failure of Ham and Noah. Okay? And an angel called upon Abraham not to lay hands on Isaac, and they offered, a ram in place of Isaac. Now I can go on to explain about this unity between Sarah and Abraham in terms of husband and wife. Okay. And this is something that is very important because there's so much disunity between Adam and Eve, at the time of the fall. And so we inherited that, and all husband and wife, without exception, has to go through this restoration. And that's why you have the story in the Bible between Abraham and Sarah, between Hagar and Sarah, okay? And then between Mary and Elizabeth. Mary is the mother of Jesus. Elizabeth is the mother of John the Baptist. And we know very well that Sarah could not accept Hagar, okay? Sarah drove out Hagar with her son, the first son of Abraham, Ishmael, and Sarah had the son of Isaac. Is that correct? So here you can see that Sarah drove out the Hagar and Ishmael. And what about Mary and Elizabeth? We'll study that in the next series in terms of the 5 women in Jesus' lineage. Okay, so unity becomes very, very important in restoration history and in restoration of heart. Who you unite with is critical. Okay, so this also applies after we become members, even in the true family, you have this, who you unite with becomes very, very critical. Yeah. And I won't go into details, but I personally have gone through leadership position where I have to choose between, 2 leaders. When you are put in a position where you have to choose between 2 leaders, it becomes even very complicated. Yeah. And in a family, the wife has to choose between uniting with the husband or uniting with the children. Okay. So this unity is so critical in restoration, restoring of the heart, and also in our families as well. Okay, so I cannot emphasize enough. Now that we understand the origin of this unity, we can also understand how is it that we can bring about unity. So I'm very sorry that this morning I have to talk in a little bit more in detail about unity, because unity is so critical. Okay, I always remember this is the last, something that I want to share is that when I attended a leaders meeting, two parents said that even if you can unite North and South Korea, what about the unity of mind and body? What is the unity of mind and body, that you have to contend with? If we cannot bring the unity of mind and body, how can we bring the unity of husband and wife? How can we bring the unity between parent and children? So unity is so important, and we need to understand the origin of this unity, the process and motivation, and understand the identity of Satan, so that we can bring back unity in this world. Okay. Thank you very much. This morning is a mouthful. I'm sorry. I always say to myself, I realize that actually, why are we called Unification Movement, Unification Church? Because we cannot unite. That's why we have to unite before we can unite the world. So lighten up the atmosphere. This morning topic is very heavy. I'm so amazed by True Mother, because, mother live a life. True Father is like a tornado, a living tornado. Every day is living with a tornado. And True Mother she went through so much, as a woman, as a wife, as a mother. But she never developed any resentment towards anybody. Just total gratitude. And even after True Father left 2012, she made determination. She will complete God's providence and indemnity and bring the victory to True Father. Such an amazing heart. Such an amazing. Don't think that mother's life is easy. We cannot imagine. To attend to True Father is like not easy task. Okay. True Father attending God is also not easy. Okay. So for us to attend True Mother, I remember when I prepared for True Mother's speaking tour in Malaysia. Of course, we took a long time to prepare for just one day. But after the one day, we was totally exhausted. We slept for maybe 2-3 days. But True Mother has to go through this every single day of her life. So I recognize, wow, total offering. So any comments, any question? Have you all had any situation in your life of faith where you have to choose between uniting with one person instead of another?
Yes.
Yes. So did you make the right choice? Did you learn something from that?
Oh, I think I've done both ways. I think I've made the bad choice many times, and I've made the good choice a couple times, maybe.
I see. That's good. Most of the time when people make the wrong choice, they don't even know that it's the wrong choice.
I think what I've experienced more recently is more of the conflict within myself of how to deal with situations and with the right kind of uniting with a heart of peace or forgiveness or something rather than the opposite. So that seems to be the one that visits me these days. So
In the family, you cannot escape it. I really throw you, huh? The wife go through, my wife at least anyway, cross of love, because I love Nishan more than her in the beginning. And then she loved the children more than me. That's my cross. Yeah? So when we go through a cross of love, then unity becomes very difficult. There's resentment, So the thing is that can the mother and the children, unite with the father? This is very critical in every family. And usually when you have to unite with the husband or the father has problem, just as God has problem in terms of Eve. You understand? Ham look at Noah and said, Noah has problem, man. Isaac, when he united with Abraham, hey, my father has problem. He's a murderer. Then the unity between women. Oh my, Hagar and Sarah, for example. Sarah drove out Hagar for good reason, Elizabeth, must have done the same thing, Mary was asked to lead the household of Zachariah 3 months before the birth of John the Baptist. But the Bible never explained why. Mary just left. She came to the household of the Zachariah family. Elizabeth testified. At that time, Elizabeth was 3 months pregnant with John the Baptist. And then 3 months before the birth of John the Baptist, Mary left. Why? Was it a repeat of Hagar and Sarah? So this is something that we will talk about in the 5 women of Jesus' lineage. So disunity in the Bible between Cain and Abel. What about disunity, restoration of heart between the women in the Bible? Somehow, this is missing in divine principle education. I heard in Japan, they include Cain and Abel in terms of women as well, but we don't have that in terms of restoration of, women. I already know that some of you will say that. No, I don't want to listen to that. We already have enough prejudice against women. We talk about restoration of the women. Oh, wow, we'll blame the women more than we blame the man. I don't know. Okay. No comments? No question? Yeah. I don't know whether you have a clearer understanding of what artistic distance is. We understand artistic distance? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the examples that you gave about like when you were trying to explain how the situation could have played out differently with like Eve or Cain and Abel or Ham, that gives a very good sense of artistic distance. It's like the thought didn't even come up to go to God with the situation, or for even when you were saying like for Abel could have also like went to Cain and said, hey, what happened, like let's work on this together. Maybe it's easy for us to think like, oh yeah, maybe Cain should have been more humble. Of course, yeah, but it could have happened many ways. So I think for me that made the understanding of artistic distance much deeper. Yeah.
Mhm. So I still stand by husband and wife. Use the word sorry and thank you as much as you can. Okay.
I'm putting that in my brain, and there are special notebook to
Sorry.
remember when the time
This
comes.
applies not only husband and wife, relationship between
Yeah.
all relationships, same. Parent and children, friend, leader and children, or leader and disciple, all same, If both parties try to serve one another, how to serve one another? I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. But say it with a heart, not just say that I'm sorry, but I'm not really sorry, lah. Yeah. Okay, so this is the last series of the restoration of heart. I hope you feel that you have some kind of formula course that you can live by throughout your life. Okay. Restoration of heart is necessary. Forgive and forget is more important than give and forget. Okay. There will come a time of which we can say, yeah, give and forget is more important than forgive and forget. But for many of us, it's still forgive and forget is really more important for us than give and forget, because most of the time we don't have the heart to give. So we need to forgive. So every morning devotion, when I wake up, I say, I have no gratitude in my heart. I cannot say that during morning devotion. So what I say is that, yeah, I don't have gratitude. Yeah, but so how? I have to repent. So I have to think of something to repent, not think of something, just feel in my heart, what is it that I'm so, clouded. My heart is so clouded, that corrupted, that I cannot feel grateful. I can repent. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening. I'm so appreciative. You give me opportunity to share this. For me, it's the fundamentals of restoration of heart. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.